I started the recording. Should be showing that it's recording. Do you see that, anyone, that it's recording?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, everybody. All right, so this is our, I'm letting people in at the same time. Mike hasn't arrived yet, and he usually does it.
Yeah, I think I got that, Cynthia.
Okay, thank you. So this is the North San Joaquin Valley CNPS chapter, and we started a webinar series a few months ago. This is our third event, and our speaker is Carl Hill. He's already started talking a bit. He's the founder and owner of Blossom Hill Native Plants, and of course, you'll learn all about Carl's journey and his nursery. And here's the URL if you want to check out his website. So the agenda is I'm just going to have a few minutes telling you about our webinar series, and then Mike will tell you about our chapter and some of the other things we have coming up. Mike won't be able to do this until after Carl speaks. We changed the order a little bit. I'll give a very brief speaker intro, and then of course we'll have Carl speaking. We're recording the webinar and uploading to our brand new YouTube channel at NSJV_CNPS. And we're also announcing our new, everything new webinars on Facebook. We do have a website about to come up, and our president's been working that. It's not quite ready yet. So if you want to find out what we're doing right now, you have to go to our Facebook page, or you can ask to be on our email list. Just put that, if you want to be on the email list, just put it in the chat. So this is just the past and upcoming webinars. So we've had two, I would say, very successful webinars so far. Biodiversity in the California Native Plant Gardener by Arvind Kumar, and Reliable California Native Plants for Garden with No Irrigation by Christoph Kozminski. Both of these are recorded, and they're in our YouTube channel. Today is Carl's talk. January 9th, we're going to have inspirational outings, Public Lands of California's Central Valley by Dr. Jeannie Knapp. And this will be kind of telling you great places to go to see native plants in their wild habitat. February 13th is basic botany of our favorite California wildflowers. The idea behind this is as the wildflowers appear, we can learn more about, the botany of them. And we have Professor Andy Gardner from Stanislaus State, and also a member of our chapter will be talking about that. And March 13th, just in time for wildflower season, we'll have Cynthia Gingerich showing us how to arrange California native plants in bouquets, garlands, and wreaths. So you can go sign up for those now on our Facebook page so that you will get the link and be able to put it into your calendar. This is our YouTube channel. Just thought I'd show this. Anyway, here's YouTube now lets you have names even if you don't have that many subscribers. We already have 26 though. Okay. Again, this is our free webinar series, they're all recorded. And typically they'll be the second Monday evening of each month. If you want to block that off, I mean, it's not always for sure, but probably we're skipping December. And if you have an idea for a webinar, or if you want to be a speaker, just email me. And there's my email address. And now we're going to go ahead and start with Carl. And then Mike will speak afterwards. So I'm just going to very briefly, these people that want to be added to the email list, put it in the chat, right? And then we'll go through the chat and find it. So I'm not going to say too much about Carl because actually Carl is going to talk about his journey in discovering and creating an incredible native plant, both garden and nursery, and that's what he's going to be talking about. But I will say that Carl is a fantastic resource for us in the San Joaquin Valley and really the south part of the Central Valley. His nursery is in Oakdale, which is very close to Modesto, and he's also a member of our chapter. So that's a little bit of background about Carl. And now, Carl, why don't you go ahead and take the screen and you can start
Okay.
talking.
Okay. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm going to minimize some of you. Sorry about it. Nothing personal, but get you out of the way a little bit. So first of all, Cynthia, thank you for the introduction, and thank you everybody for attending. It's my pleasure to host this or to participate in this and present. A little bit about, we'll go through the presentation. I think we've got about 45 minutes, so we've got plenty of time for questions. And I'm pausing here to let you enjoy some of the pictures if you'd like. And if you can't hear me for some reason, you're going to have to tell me audibly because I don't have the chat thing open or anything like that. Please, I think we'll save questions for the end unless it's something really pressing, and then feel free to cut in. So let's get started. What we're going to talk about today is introduction in history, California, talk about California a little bit. It's a diverse state. What you need to know for planting. 3 favorite genre. We have more than 3 favorites. I'll mention that multiple times, but we have 3 mentioned here. Drought tolerant all-stars, just a few that are mentioned. Pruning, local hybrids, which is kind of a very fun thing for us. Some little bit of information about Blossom Hill Nursery, resources, and then we'll have time for questions. So thanks everybody again for attending, and let's get started. By the way, all the images are original images, so hope you enjoy them. So introduction and history. I guess, first of all, I'd like to mention what my purpose is in this presentation. And as I thought about putting it together, as we get people come into the nursery, we get quite a few questions. How do I plan? What plants do I plant? How do I go about things? So this is geared at that level. So if you've been in native plants many years, I hope you enjoy it, but it may be a little basic. But our goal is to answer as many questions as possible to those people. The questions people ask. Personal, a little bit about myself and my family, my wife. We live in Oakdale. We live east of Oakdale on Orange Blossom Road. It's just a few miles out of town. 12 years ago, we moved from in town to a 10-acre property, excuse me, out here. And we started with very little. Just for information, this is my wife and I doing our poses as small farmers. We do farm 8 acres of almonds, and that keeps us busy as well. So when we started at this property, it's 2010. This is what it looked like. We started with basically bare land with nothing growing. I guess some rocks and some weeds were about the best we could do. And here's another picture. And so, of course, we had a blank canvas, so to speak. Just a kind of a reflecting on this. This is after we had taken out multiple large dumpsters of stuff. So this is a cleaned up version of what it looked like on our first day. Of course, there's the pool. This is back here is the famous persimmon tree that people notice when they come to the nursery. And the nursery is located over here at this point. But yeah, you could drive your car into the pool and there wasn't anything to stop you at that point. So we started, of course, landscaping, and we landscaped with traditional, plants around the house and put in small lawns, but we had a considerable area, as you can imagine, this whole area, and around the pool and some other areas that we needed a landscape. And we thought, well, let's, I'm hearing somebody, if you just joined, I'm getting an echo, and if somebody can mute, please. Thank you very much. So we had quite a bit to do, and we started exploring native plants back in 2012, 2013. I want to give credit to the folks at Los Politas. My parents used to live in the area, and Bert and Penny were a big help. And so every trip down to the Central Coast, we would go visit them and bring back plants and advice from them, which was really fun and valuable. As we transition to current, this is that same area that we call the circle that is around the driveway that had nothing, has a mature landscape now. And then this is another shot, a garden shot. And for your information, or you may have noticed, this is the same as the background for the presentation. So we started growing native plants and learning about them. And of course, we had a large area to landscape. So we started propagating them. And after we got to the point where we felt we had covered what we wanted to plant, we still had 200 or 300 plants left. So we thought, well, let's sell them, see if anybody wants to buy these things. And sure enough, they did. And we continued as more or less a hobby nursery for the next 5, 6, 7 years. We would have anywhere from 500 to 700 plants available, and have sales in the fall and the spring, just a few sales, and started to develop a business. We enjoyed it very much, and we enjoyed the people as well that came to visit the nursery. So as we started looking at retirement, and I've been now retired for 2 years, the opportunity came, well, I wonder what this market looks like. What's the potential? So we expanded that year and pretty much doubled our offering to people, and it was very well received. So that's when we really started from being a hobby nursery to being a part-time commercial nursery. Well, maybe not commercial, part-time small nursery, not a commercial nursery. A little bit about my background. I worked in agriculture for my career, worked within California in the processing tomato business with farmers throughout the Central Valley. The last 15, 16 years, I worked in the vegetable seed business as a sales manager and as a product development regional head. So I enjoyed that very much, but I'm very glad to have moved on and had the opportunity to retire. So this is what the nursery looked like 2 years ago. And this is our retail space, our propagation house, the famous, once again, persimmon tree. And this is under construction. You can see the wheat fabric and gravel. And this is what it looked like this morning. And I'm here, my internet connection is unstable, so I hope that rectifies itself. This is post-sales. We've had a very busy fall season for us. So you can see a lot of holes out here, but we do have this retail area with shade screens and automatic watering and all that type of stuff. So that's a little bit of history and tells you where we've came from. So let's talk about California a little bit. And one of the, I guess, misconceptions, or one of the things that we discuss with people is California is a very diverse state. California native plants is a somewhat arbitrary classification. It's a political boundary. It's not an ecological boundary. And California has a wide diversity. So you have all the way from the North Coast to Mojave Desert. You have from Mount Whitney to the Death Valley. to the Central Coast, to the San Joaquin Valley. So it's important to understand those things and where the plants are coming from when you discuss California native plants. So this is just a zone map, and it just shows that we have an incredible amount of diversity in our state. So we do specialize in plants suitable for our area, for the northern San Joaquin Valley and Sierra Nevada foothills. Our customers come from Sacramento to Groveland, Strawberry, Bay Area, and down to Fresno. We've had some farther away, but that's really as opportunity, passing through the area, that type of stuff. So planting a native garden. And here we're going to get into really the meat of the presentation and what people should consider as they're planning and starting to plan a native garden. First of all, why do you want to do it? What's your purpose? And there can be lots of purposes. Pollinators, color, fragrance, erosion control, minimize water use, screen between neighbors. We do get a considerable amount of people in country-size areas that have acreage that are looking to cover large areas or have large screens between them and neighbors. As well as we get many people from the city on smaller lots. Some of the towns in the area have compensated people for taking out their lawns and planting a native landscaping. So, and how much room do you have, and what do you want to do with that space? And break large projects into smaller pieces. If you're new to native plants and landscaping in general, many people are as they undertake this, it's really helpful to answer these things before you start thinking about plants. And look at the property you have and think about what you want to do with it instead of diving in to, well, what plant do I want? Should I buy this or should I buy that? So we always advise people to do these type of things. And of course, there can be multiple purposes: pollinators, color, fragrance, erosion control. There can be multiple purposes for any piece of property and any landowner. So what is the exposure of the site? Is it full or part sun? How many hours of sunlight, north or south facing? And what is there a grade, and what type of grade? What type of soil do you have? Can be another consideration. But really, what type of plant works best in where you are for its specific situation? Close to fences, close to houses, under trees, or full sun. North or south facing will determine how hot it is, especially in the winter, how exposed it is. Grade can have a interesting effect. We have places in our orchard at the bottom of a grade that gets excessive moisture, but for the most part in our garden we do have some grade, and that stays drier than normal because there's more runoff, less water penetration, that type of stuff. Also, in our particular case, the grade is south facing, so it gets quite a little bit more exposure than the flat places. So know the plants that you're picking. What region are the plants from? Plants from the North Coast are very different than plants from the desert. So, and as we mentioned, there's a lot of different places in California. It's not absolute. We've found that there are plants that are from coastal plants that can do well in this area. Santa Cruz Island buckwheat, Eriogonum arborescens is a great plant. Does very well in full sun and the valley heat. We had 107 degrees this year and it didn't even blink. There are other plants that do very well, but as a start, know what plants you're picking, where they're from, and then work from there. As I mentioned, the nursery, we specialize in plants that are good for this area. That very hot summers, mild, with some frost during the winter, and limited precipitation. So planting a native garden. What size of plants do you want? Remember, they grow. I'm not trying to be a smart aleck when I say that. I'm speaking from experience that we have relocated and tore out more than a few plants because they weren't planted appropriately. Just remember, they grow. It's better to have a little bit more room than a little bit less room. It's better to go slower than faster and not cover all your ground, especially if you're doing the design yourself. So draw a picture, lay the design out, start with large plants and fill them with smaller. Irrigation type and how often. Some people choose not to irrigate, but many do. Sprinklers are preferred over drip. For most species, saturated root zones during summer hurt the plants. There are some that they don't, but in generally irrigation during the initial growing season helps and can then be cut back or eliminated in following years, and pick plants accordingly. In the nursery, we irrigate generally every 10 to 12 days, but this varies. We have sections that we have never watered. We have plants that like part sun and like a lot of water. This Matul River fuchsia is one of them, and it thrives in part sun and pretty much all the water it'll take. We grow those plants up next to the house, and they are watered with other landscape plants next to them. But yeah, we are a nursery, and our garden is a demonstration garden. So we need to keep our plants fresh, even through the summer. Excuse me. During the summer, it's not enough water to really, with the root zone, it's just enough water to, I characterize it as give the plants a thunderstorm. So maintenance and pruning. Do you like working in the garden? Some require more maintenance than others. More on pruning to follow. There's a section a little bit further back, so I won't go into this extensively, but really, how much do you want to work in the garden? Do you want no maintenance plants? Do you enjoy being out there, enjoy pruning, enjoy doing the things, enjoy gardening? So it's important to know when you're planning. Okay, all these things need to be considered, but most importantly, enjoy the experience and allow yourself to make mistakes and redo as needed. We've made plenty of mistakes. We've redone many plants, taken more than a few out and redone things. So enjoy the experience. And that's really the most important aspect of this, in my opinion. We tell people when you come to the nursery, we want you to enjoy yourself. We want you to enjoy the plants, but we want you to enjoy yourself. The plants are part of it, but it's part of the experience, how people are greeted, how people are treated, and the knowledge they get, the education they get by talking to people, ourselves and people that help us during sale days. So we have some favorites. It's hard to narrow favorites down to just a few, but I have, just for simplicity's sake. Salvia pachyphylla is a favorite, a common name of rose sage. It's a very hardy, beautiful evergreen sage. It's perennial, long flowering period, attracts bees and hummingbirds, very drought tolerant, colorful as a drought tolerant landscape. It blooms spring into summer. It is a desert sage, so it does not like a lot of water during the summer. It is a fantastic sage. Medium to low height, attracts hummingbirds, and we'll see some, if you haven't already seen, we'll see some hummingbirds on Salvia pachyphylla. Bee's Bliss. Bee's Bliss is a popular sage hybrid. I can't remember the two crosses that went into it right now. I will as soon as I'm done presenting. So as soon as I go to bed tonight, but that's another story. Low growing, spreading, aromatic, easy to grow perennial shrub. This is an easy one to grow. Will root at nodes and continue to spread, very adaptable, needs a large area. It's a great starter plant for those learning about natives, early season color, drought tolerant, evergreen, dormant in summer, does not need summer irrigation after established. During summer, it drops some leaves. The leaves become thick and reduces transpiration and it just kind of sits there until it gets wet and starts growing again. This is one that we strongly recommend for somebody that has a lot of area. We have planted, or initially 5 of these, and we tore out all but 1 or 2 because we just didn't have the room for them. So, but if you do have a country property, a large property, this is a great plant, easy to grow, beautiful in the spring. One caution about sages is that they do burn, and this one in particular. So we have some people in fire areas, but people in general, we recommend do not plant this close to the house because it could be a problem in that instance. Hummingbird sage. This is our biggest seller. It's low growing, spreading flower with sage with flower spikes. Attracts hummingbirds. Great aroma, very aromatic. Summer dormant, drought tolerant. Nice fill in between larger sages or shrubs. Flowers in fall to early summer when moisture is present. It's a beautiful plant, and it's true to its name. It is a hummingbird attractor, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with it. It's really one of the places that many people start when they're starting to think about native plant landscaping. It's one of the ones we did as well. The Las Politas has a variation. It's a low growing, fairly quickly spreading. That's the one that we sell the most of. And it's a very nice, that's a picture here. And that's a very nice sage. So favorites, you have to mention the penstemons. We love penstemons. I think they should be in every garden. Not everybody may agree, but that's our advice. This is the desert penstemons, Penstemon pseudospectabilis. That suggests a desert penstemon, very drought tolerant, good planted as accent or in groups. This picture is a young desert penstemon. They do get a little bit older. It does need to be pruned, and it was a mid to larger size penstemon. Foothill penstemon, I'm sure many of you are familiar with foothill penstemon. Favorite low-growing penstemon. Flower spring well into summer. Single plant or in groups, nice as a shrub. Doesn't need any pruning, very drought tolerant, however, can take some summer irrigation after established. This is another very versatile and beautiful plant, especially for landscapers, especially in sites that are fairly small. And it is very low maintenance, as it mentions here. Okay, Penstemon spectabilis, showy penstemon. This is one of our favorites. Big, showy penstemon, very large, flowers well into summer, planted as an accent or in small groups. We sell many of these each year, and people come back for more. The hummingbirds love it. It is a large penstemon, so it does need to be pruned, and I keep mentioning pruning, and we'll get in a little more detail on that a little bit later. So it is a wonderful. There are other penstemons that are just fantastic as well. These are 3 examples. And as let me see what I got here. Some favorites, Ceanothus. Ceanothus is one of the ones we started with and really fell in love with, the lilacs. This is a California mountain lilac, Ceanothus concha. And it's a favorite perennial evergreen shrub. Intense blue flowers cover the shrub in spring. We notice these around the country when people have them on a drive through the country. When people have them, they really stand out. Colorful deep green leaves offer attractive foliage throughout the year. Great larger shrub for a hedge or as a screening plant. Avoid summer irrigation after established. Needs good drainage. This is one of our favorites. It is large. It gets to be, in our garden, 7 to 8 foot by 12 to high by 10 to 12 foot wide. Ceanothus thriciflorus skylark. This is a small version of thriciflorus, mid-sized Ceanothus. fast growing but stays compact. A large green foliage with bright blue flowers can be used as a border or hedge. Flowers in late spring. And this is the latest flowering ceanothus that we carry. And it's really a nice addition. It's kind of unassuming. It's smaller than some others like Joyce Coulter or Yankee Point. And flowers after they're all done. It's really, really a nice addition, extends the flowering time. And Ray Hartman. I'm sure many of you are familiar with Ray Hartman, a fast-growing tall mountain lilac, very fast-growing to 6 foot plus. Flowers are blue and appear in late winter, spring, pruned to desired shape, and can be a nice smaller tree. It is a nice smaller tree if you prune it up. We do prune these up to form a tree. Frost tolerant, can get taller depending on conditions. Our Ray Hartman is about 9 or 10 foot tall. The cutting it came off of was significantly taller, 14 foot, maybe 15 foot tall. So they can't get much taller. I think that was given a little bit more water than what we do. But it's a very nice shrub, add some dimension to the garden and some height. So there are others. I'm sure you all have some of your favorites. We love the buckwheats, the manzanitas, the fuchsias are just fantastic, especially this time of year. And so we could go on and on, but these are only a few favorites. And within these genus, there are other species that are fantastic as well. It's hard to get away from the penstemons and the sages and the lilacs. So as favorites. So drought tolerant all-stars. I'm sure, like I said, many of you are familiar with some of these. The silver bush lupin. I mentioned we have a part of our garden that we never water. And that means, for instance, this year, it goes for 8 months without a single drop. Perennial shrub native to coastal and Sierra foothills, extremely drought tolerant after established. Spring blooms of pink, blue flowers on spikes. Permanent summer needs good drainage. Use that an accent shrub among other plants that have different blooming timing. This blooms here in March. It's so you can use it with fuchsias, penstemon, ceanothus. It does not like to be watered during the summer. It goes summer dormant, drops most of its leaves. The other ones thicken up. I don't think it transpires hardly at all. It is one that is hard to keep in the nursery because you have to have a certain moisture level in the soil. It's a very light soil in the nursery, and lupin, they go dormant. They don't transpire, and they get too wet. So we don't over summer lupins in the nursery for that reason. So other drought tolerant all-stars, manzanitas. I'm sure that's not a surprise to many. This is one of our favorites, sentinel manzanita. It's an early bloomer, blooms during January, medium-sized manzanita. Ours is about 5 foot tall by 6 or 7 foot wide, pinkish flower, drought tolerant, lots of pink, white flowers in January, can be pruned into a small tree. Smooth, dark, red, brown bark. Here's another favorite, Chalopsis linearis, desert willow, a wonderful tree. We don't carry many trees, but this is one we carry as well as we can. We do sell out every year, and our goal is not to sell out, but we do, and we are out this year. But desert willow is an awesome tree, winter deciduous, fast growing with big showy flowers. Needs no water after the first year. Flowers made in December with showy pink flowers. Very hardy and adaptable. Very nice addition to lower growing native plants. Not dense like cultivated willows, can be pruned to desired shape. Range of Southern California into Mexico. We really enjoy this tree, as well as darn everybody that has it. I haven't heard a bad comment about desert willow. Just an FYI, if you haven't been, as you go down Highway 99, there's a rest stop before you you reach Bakersfield, they have a native plant garden, and they have desert willow all over the place down there. It is one that needs to be pruned up. This is a neighbor's or friend's tree a little down the road, and does need to be pruned up. It'll be more like a bush. Excuse me. So what else? Pruning. I promised that we would get to pruning, and here we are. By the way, this picture is Penstemon etonii. Etonii is a basal plant, basal leaves, and it shoots out these red or stalks with red flowers. It's really a nice plant. Pruning. Not a question that comes up as much in the nursery because people are buying small plants, but one we try and inform people of as much as we can, because many native plants, not all, really benefit from pruning. And that pruning encourages good structure, prune to the desired shape, and for increased flowering. And we'll go through just a few species here with some recommendations and try and be as specific as possible, but try and be as specific as possible. For salvias, for sages, large sages need summer pruning. We prune between end of flowering and fall when plants have gone into really summer dormancy, and we trim flower stalks and plant up to 50%. It encourages good structure and flowering. I think it depends. I think we have people from a lot of different areas on the talk. So if you're higher elevation or coastal, you may not have to do this as much. But the plant generally tells you what it needs. If we let the large salvias go, they get big. The structure is poor. We'll have branches collapse, and we'll have less flowering than we would have if we pruned. Just going to take a little side trip right now. Depending on where you live, where we do, some of these plants are pretty happy. If they come out of wherever they come, desert plants come here and they have deep soil, could have many more nutrients, they get more moisture, and they can grow pretty big. And they do benefit from pruning, and they grow bigger than they normally do in their natural environment, because it's just such a nice place for them to be, nice environment. So that's one of the reasons why pruning is, for some of these, is necessary. Potentially in some areas not, but here they are. Fuchsias, Epilobium, Rosacenaria. I think everybody uses Epilobium except Las Politas, and that's where we got the plant, so we can stay with it. We prune our fuchsias 50 to 80%, depending on vigor of the species and plant. You'll read anywhere that fuchsias benefit from pruning. 80% for some is a little conservative. There is one that we prune back almost 100% to bare ground. There's two that we do that with. If they're young, 50%, but regardless, they all benefit from pruning. Keeps the foliage fresh, gives you more flowers, more attractive plant. Penstemons. We talked a little bit Penstemon spectabilis. There's some other ones, Penstemon granellii, Penstemon incertus, and others. Large penstemons, we prune back about 50% for best structure and increased flowering. We may be getting, here again, we may be getting a boost in growth because of where they're being grown. And but for us, that's the thing that works the best, to prune them back pretty severely after they're done flowering. Summer dormancy, that's when we do it. For small penstemons like this one on the right, Penstemon etonii, or Penstemon Heterophilus, foothill penstemon, we only deadhead the flowers. There's really no need to prune those, and that's nice as well. And if you're looking for lower maintenance, that's something to keep in mind as well. Ceanothus really don't need to be pruned, but pruned to desired shape. Ceanothus concha, I'd mentioned our Ceanothus concha is 8 foot tall and 10 to 12 foot wide. We have one Ceanothus concha, which is the same height and 4 or 5 foot wide because we pruned it. And it's a very attractive plant like that as well. But they don't need it if you don't want to. Buckwheat's Eriogonum, very little needed. Haven't ran into a buckwheat that needs pruned other than for garden local purposes. They're competing with another plant and you want to separate them a little bit. We did have the flowers and the flower stalks, and that's kind of obvious. Some of them we leave on for a long time. We don't even hardly do that. Santa Cruz Island buckwheat is really attractive, small shrub, and we enjoy even the dead flowers on that one. Manzanitas, no pruning needed except for aesthetics and size. So in general, prune to what makes sense for good structure. Don't be afraid to prune them. There's numerous people that have thought that that wasn't helpful or would hurt the plant. That's not the case. It can hurt certain plants at certain growth stages during the year, but for the most part, do what makes sense, prune for aesthetics and increase flowering. So we're starting to, local hybrids. We're about 2/3, 3/4 done. Local hybrids, this is a fun subject. They're a product of natural cross-pollination and reseeding volunteers. So we don't do any breeding, we don't do any manual crossing of plants, but the pollinators do. And occasionally, well, actually more than occasionally, we'll get many volunteers growing that are different from any plants we have in the garden or any of their parents. We have 2 this year that we have introduced or are introducing. Salvia Allison's Blossom. It is a Salvia clevelandii cross. It is a very nice sage. It is, I'll read through the thing. It's a product of Salvia clevelandii cross with some Salvia apiana, a white sage. Has very nice structure, foliage, and extended flowering time. Very adaptable and drought tolerant. Smaller than Vicky Romo, slightly larger than Salvia clevelandii. And maybe didn't explain that well. Vicky Romo is a sage that is half white sage, half apiana, and half clevelandii. So we do have a Vicky Romo in the garden, and it was obvious this was growing next to a Salvia clevelandii, and it was obvious it was not the same, that it had some white sage in it. So that is what our detective work came up with. We didn't do any genetic analysis, and we won't, but that's what it appears to be. It is something more than a Cleveland sage, and so we figure it has about 75% clevelandii and 25% apiana, but that is very informal analysis. But it's probably pretty close. Another one that we have is Epilobium Desi's Blossom. So one of the nice things, you get to name these things. Vicky Romo's a name. There's other names, Howard McMinn. There's all kinds of names that Dr. Hurd, to name a few. We get to name them, and we'll name them with a person's name, and then Blossom identifies that came from this nursery. It is a fuchsia. It's a hybrid that has some of the best characteristics of both Mexicana and Catalina. Catalina is a common fuchsia. Cat Mexicana came out of Las Politas, and I'm not sure if that is named different in other places, but it is a low spreading fuchsia. And Desi's Blossom is a slightly spreading, small, upright fuchsia, prolific flowering of red, orange flowers that hummingbirds love, product of natural cross-pollination of the garden. Thank you to the hummingbirds, and we do thank them. they're both very, very nice. Of course, Desi's Blossom has had a fantastic fall. I wasn't sure what the demand was, but we sold out within a couple of weeks. It is a very, very attractive fuchsia. So now we know, and we'll be able to gear up production. We won't have anything till next fall. We do have some Allison's blossoms left, and those we'll probably have those into spring, but those we're selling those as well. So this is kind of a fun part of having a nursery, of having a native garden. Things go a little wild. You get some volunteers, you get some cross-pollination, you get things that you didn't start with, and you can play with them. And if they pan out, you can sell them, and other people can enjoy them. We have had some other of these, a Princeton in particular, that didn't pan out, it didn't live. It lived for a year or two. So we usually try to make sure these were going to stick around. Allison's Blossom in the nursery, it's 3 or 4 years old. Desi is, it was last year it started, but fuchsias are so easy to grow that we're not too worried about the longevity on that one. So we're starting to land the plane. A little bit of nursery information. Here's a nice picture of a hummingbird sage. We have approximately 3,000 plants at any one time. We did go into our fall sales season with close to this number. We have 100+ species. We had a new retail nursery area 2 years ago. We are open spring and fall. This is a part-time business for us. We aren't open all the time. We do have open hours. We also take appointments. We send out email notifications to people. We will be closed December, January, open back up in February. We'll start having hours the second half of February, and we close during the summer, typically part of June, July, August, and September, and we open up beginning of October. There's a couple of reasons for that. We have the trees that they take up a bit of our time during the summer. We want to get through harvest, and summer just a lousy time to plant native plants for almost everybody, unless you're in a different spot and you really know what you're doing. So we just don't really like to sell them. People have bought them and they've died, and that's not good for anybody. So we like taking summers off. So we do that. Our final 2022 hours is Saturday, November 26th. That's a week from Saturday, 12 to 4. I do want to, for those that are planning, or customers that received a previous email notification, that time has changed from 12 to 2, from 10 to 2 to 12 to 4. We need to go to a memorial service in the morning. So we are changing it just to an afternoon sale. So I know some people are coming by with family after Thanksgiving, and hope it could be a fun time, relaxing time. And if they need some plants, we're glad to help them in that way. What else? This is part of our website this isn't accessible unless we have hours, and you'll see the link at the top of the page. Fall sale hours and information. Up next middle of February, we'll post spring hours and information, and you can see that Saturday, November 12th was last Saturday. We were open 9 to 2. It was an extremely busy sale. It was really a good sale and extremely busy. It surprised us a little bit. So Saturday, November 26th from 12 to 4, it's a new time, and that'll be our final open hours. I want to mention for those with an ongoing project that have bought plants before, if you need plants during any time, December, January, or even other times, we're glad to have you contact us and come and get plants and see how we can help out. We do close, but we don't want to get in the way of projects that are running. Don't want people to worry about contacting us if they have a need like that. So that is available to people. There are some of our sales, we do have appointments. We had a CNPS fundraiser a month ago, something like that. And we had appointments for that. That's usually a very busy Saturday, and that was just to spread people out. So occasionally we do have appointments, and you'll see that on the website. We had one sale where we had a large garden group in, and so we made appointments on either side of that and made room for them, because that we wouldn't have had the time to spend with people that we would have liked if we hadn't blocked out that time. Okay, resources. This is part of the website. I want you to know it's there. It's Calscape, the Native Plant Society. By the way, Calscape is a great resource. I'm surprised if everybody doesn't know that. It's our first place to go to find out, is it a native? If somebody asks about a plant, is it a native? Can we bring it into the nursery? California Native Plant Society. Jim Brugger does design work in the area. Great Valley Seed Company is affiliated with a grower down in Los Palos. They do large projects, and so we're glad to try and support them. Occasionally we get a request for very large volume plants for participation in those projects, and we don't have the capacity to do that. So we're glad to refer them. Theodore Payne, an awesome place, awesome resource as well. We do source seed from Theodore Payne if you get a chance to visit them in Southern California. And just a few other ones, Northern San Joaquin chapter. You're familiar with that if you're here. Las Politas is a little bit of where we started learning from them. So we're glad to support them. They do ship plants. There's two apps, iNaturalist and Central California Wildflowers, that we recommend and I've used. So if you're out somewhere and you know your plants, you can contribute to iNaturalist, or you can find out who else has seen those plants and find out what they are. Central California Wildflowers is just a database or an app that identifies flowers based on color, leaf arrangement, those type of things. And it's not all-encompassing by any means, but it's really pretty good. Another part of our website is topics of interest, Q&A. These are topics that we thought would be interesting to people that they may not have heard of. The first one is our new species, subspecies, really natives. So is Allison's blossom really a native? Is Desi's blossom really a native? Is Dr. Hurt, and our selections native plants. There are many selections of different species. Sentinel Arctostaphylos densiflora has many selections out of it. Are they native plants? So some other questions, including the last questions: are there plants that you do not work, you no longer grow? So we list them. Those I need to update that. There's additional ones. I just need some time. And it's a list of, I don't know, 15 or 20 plants that we have tried, haven't had any luck with. That doesn't mean that's the same story for everybody, but that's our experience. And if we can't grow it, if it isn't persistent, doesn't survive, we don't offer it if we know that, and prefer not to offer those plants in the nursery. By the way, we only deal in perennials. We do have a few short-lived perennials, and that we sell to people, but those are identified and they're coming 4x4 instead of 1 gallon pots. So what else? Q&A, growing natives. There's a beginner's primer for growing natives, things to consider, and to read through if you're just understanding the category. And that is it. And here's a rose sage, Salvia pachyphylla, with the hummingbird sage, 2 pictures of hummingbird sage, one with the hummingbird and one just, I think this might be the third, must be a good plant because this is a repeat image from previous. So I'll open it up in Does anybody have any questions? I think we've taken about 45 or 50 minutes, so we do have time.
Hey, Carl, this is Cynthia. So thanks very much. What I'd like to do right now is go back through some of the questions on the chat and have you quickly answer those, because I'm sure there's more now that you've
Okay.
finished. So I'm just going to go sort of like last in, first out. So Diane asked, how late can I plant? I'm in the Sierra foothills, Grass Valley.
Okay. Let me try and find where you're at, Cynthia.
Oh, that was a direct message, so you don't see that one.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Say it again.
She asked, how late can she plant? She's in the Sierra foothills in Grass Valley.
Yeah, I think it's getting pretty cold right up there right now. What elevation? I don't know what elevation. I would suggest, I'm extrapolating based on where we're at and what I've talked to people with, and I don't think you're going to get a lot of growth. So I think it's best to wait till spring to plant, because you're going to get some pretty cold weather and snow. So that would be my recommendation. We do have people in Groveland. They do get occasional snow, and I think they're a little bit lower than you are. And they will plant now for a little while longer.
Okay, more questions. I just want to remind everyone that this presentation is being recorded. It'll be on our YouTube channel, and that his presentation will also be available, so you can go back and look through the slides. Okay, let's see. Our house faces, this is from Raina. Our house faces west. Is that considered north or south facing?
Well, if you're facing west, as you're facing out your front door, left-hand side would be south facing, right-hand side would be north.
Oh, okay. All right.
So you're west facing. I don't. Yeah, did I answer that, Cynthia, or did I not understand?
Well, I mean, everything says north south, and so she's asking, well, what if it's
west? Yeah. I don't think there's a lot of difference between east and west. Your south facing side of your house will be much warmer and drier than your north facing. Between east and west, it's really just part sun. I don't think there's a major influence in terms of aspect for that, unless if you're facing west, you could have trees in the backyard that could give you added shade, and that'd be my only thought.
Okay, let's see. Sorry. Do I have to worry about Argentine ants? This is from Jean in the San Joaquin Valley.
I don't have any experience with that. Argentine ants?
Yeah, when I lived in the Bay Area, they were everywhere, but I've moved out here, and I haven't seen them out here. Has anyone, people put in the chat?
Those are the little guys, the little black ones.
Yeah, no experience. I've not heard of those.
Okay, so here's something from Patricia. Planting native, what about planting natives in decomposed granite? So she's experimenting with compost, cardboard, rice straw, and a bit of fertilizer over decomposed granite.
Yeah, I'm probably I'm kind of telling you more than I know because I don't have experience. Decomposed granite doesn't sound like it would retain much moisture at all.
No.
So without some organic matter, heavy mulching, that would be really tough.
So am I unmuted?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you so much, Carl and
you're
Cynthia.
welcome.
Really appreciate this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so what I did was I sheet mulched and I put down some fertilizer, some compost, some rice straw, and it's been out there for about a month and a half, almost 2 months. And
Mhm.
I'm getting a few uh, seed growage out of the rice, which I'm not too worried about. And I am also under shade in a California oak. So I
Mhm.
have not lifted, oh, and cardboard, and I have not lifted it up yet to see
Mhm.
what's going on. But
Okay.
yeah, I was curious if you had any experience. So apparently you don't, right?
Yeah, I really don't.
Okay.
Our soil, we have people that have done that, landscapers that have done that, or sheet mulched, put down
Yeah.
cardboard or something like that. But our experience, we are on a fairly loamy soil,
Okay.
and we don't add any additives or fertilizer. We add fertilizer in the nursery, but we
Right.
don't add anything to the soil here.
Okay.
I've had some people, with different soil types, share some information, but nothing to that extent.
Okay. Well, I'm going to
So
try it.
yeah, sorry about that.
I was just going to say I'm going to try it and see what happened. The other
Yeah, see
the
what
other thing
happens.
the other thing I did was I bought some narrow leaf milkweed and I put it in a
Mhm.
half wine barrel, and I had my
Mhm.
husband go out to the hill to get native soil, and I kind of did a lasagna thing with the native soil, compost, and then when I put the plants in, I had 5 plants in this half wine barrel. I added mycorrhizal
Mhm.
at the roots, and they should be dormant now, but I've got some new growth. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, hmm. Yeah, ours are going dormant here. Some are, some aren't. But sounds like they have a very nice place to live.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
The Rotary clubs in Monterey County put in a monarch habitat at
Mhm.
Laguna Seca Raceway, which is about 2 miles from where I live.
Okay.
So I'm hoping to get monarchs.
Yeah. All right. Good for you.
Hey,
All right.
Cynthia, I think it's important that we take Tahila and Evelyn's questions next, since they have had their hand raised for quite a while now.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't looking at the hand raising. Yeah, go ahead, Mike. Why don't you do that?
Hey, Tahila, do you want to go ahead and let us know what your question is?
Yes, thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed your presentation.
Good. Yeah, thank you.
I just relocated back to California after about 24 years. And I wanted to ask you, what were some of the native plants that you would suggest I grow from an apartment? So I don't have land. I live in an apartment, but I have a beautiful patio balcony. So what are some things that you think I could grow? Thank you so much for your time.
Sure. There's some questions, how big, how much sun do they get? And are you going to put them in the ground or put them in pots? We've had quite a few people in apartments or rentals just do things in pots.
Pots, please, in pots.
Okay. That in pots generally, and I'm going to take experience from growing things in the nursery, you're not going to be able to grow anything that can stand a significant amount of water. That said, there are things that do really well in pots. There's Mattole River fuchsia, Epilodium septentrionalis, that it's a fantastic plant in a pot, excuse me. There are others. There's a 5-needle Thermophila, Thermophila pantachata, that would do exceptionally well there. There are others, and when I think of pots, the small penstemons, the Heterophilas, the tonii. So you're getting into some of my favorites. Small things, penstemon, bare stem buckwheat, not a penstemon, a buckwheat. Very small buckwheat. I think that would handle the water. I'm not certain of that. Columbine would do should do very well there. We give columbine a lot of, it's in the garden water section. There's some irises. You'd have to be careful of getting them too wet during summer, but they should work. So there are options. There's more than that, but those are just some highlights that come to mind. But you're generally looking at small plants. If you want them flowing over the side, you know, you decide that. That's a Thermophila or a fuchsia. If you want upright, you can do the penstemons or some small buckwheats, some things like that. You can always do yarrows. Yarrows will take over a pot. So there's other. I'm sure there's some really good ones I'm not thinking of, but that's a few that come to mind.
Okay, Evelyn, do you want to unmute and give us your question?
I would love to. Thank you very much for calling on me. Carl, great talk. So I have been tasked with trying to get information. Our church, which is actually a cathedral, very large grounding area, wants to go drought tolerant.
Mhm.
Whom do you suggest I go to for plants?
Where are you located?
Fresno, California.
There's Intermountain.
Oh.
And there's our nursery. I think there's some that carry some in between, but those are the closest to you. And you're from Fresno, which is, depends on how far you want to drive. But Intermountain's probably the closest one to you.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Well, thank you. I've got ideas for plants and I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Okay, good. Yeah, thanks for the nice comments.
Okay, Cynthia, that's it for the raised hand. So if you want to go back to the chat.
Yeah, there was
Change
a few
the-
more questions in the chat. I'll try to grab the rest, and then we do want to, Mike wants to give, he's got a short presentation about our chapter that we want to be sure we get to. So hold on, if I don't get to your question, raise your hand actually, so that we can be sure to get your question. Let's see. What about, okay, this is from I Love Dobermans, me too.
Okay.
What about a niche near the front door south facing sun blazing during summer and low water?
South facing
South?
by the door.
Niche, a spot near the front door south facing the
Mhm.
sun during summer and low water. I don't know where this is. I assume it's in the San Joaquin Valley. Is that right? Maybe, I don't know if this person's still here.
Yeah. So I can answer the question briefly. I can come up with a few. And something I thought of you, desert marigold by the front door. They're a short-lived perennial, but they bloom all summer with just a little bit of water. Fuchsias are nice. They can handle the heat, but they'll need some extra water. If there's not that much water, they may not work for them. But trying to think of others. There are, but my mind gets a little jumbled with some specifics. So that's kind of a start. But you're looking at small plants that can handle heat. And desert marigold's a great place to start. Bailey-eye multiradiata is the name for that. It's a scientific name.
Okay, let me see if I can find another question. I'm not sure I can. So if we didn't get to your question, could you raise your hand and then we'll get Carl to answer it. Mike, I don't see where the hands are being raised.
Yeah, Stephanie is next up. She raised her hand and dropped it, but she's had a question for.
Okay.
Well, Stephanie, you want to unmute and let us know what you got?
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to say that I got an email today from the Sequoia chapter, and they are having an annual fall sale through the 16th, and their pickups are at Intermountain Nursery. So the gal that was looking for stuff for her church, they might want to take advantage of the sale through the Sequoia chapter.
That's great information.
And
So it says that the sale can be accessed through their link, which I'll post their link in the chat so she can grab it there.
Agnes, did you have a question?
Yes, I am having a horrible time with gophers. I was wondering if any of these plants are immune to gophers.
Yeah, not that we found. Yeah, we have ground squirrels.
Oh, I've
and
got
I haven't
those
found
too.
a
Yeah.
cure for that too, either. I could get dry sages just because of the smell, but sorry, I don't have I don't know if there are. I'm not aware of any.
Well,
Yeah, just go ahead.
thank you. I really enjoyed the presentation, and it's given
Okay.
me some good ideas.
Yeah, thank you very much. I wish I had gopher-proof plants, because that'd be a great, and squirrel-proof.
Julie, you want to give us your question?
Yeah, hey Carl, great
Hey, Julie.
presentation. You did a great
Yeah,
job.
thanks for joining.
Of course. I wanted to know, does the apricot mallow need pruning?
Yes.
How far down?
Prune it back we prune it back at least 50%.
Okay. And
Yeah,
is
we
it
may-
is now is
May
now a
have to
good
do it
time?
multiple times during the year.
Oh,
Yeah,
Okay.
ours grows pretty vigorous. So it can get pretty big, and then once or twice a year. So now's a good time.
okay, perfect. Thank
Yeah.
you, and I'll see you after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Okay.
As you see, yeah, different hours, Julie. So
Yes.
just keep that in mind.
I saw that.
Forrest, do you want to unmute and give us your question?
Yeah, so I have a relatively small garden area, suburban environment, sort of. But the soil is hard. It's shaded by a fence in the winter. Not a whole lot grows there. It's pretty unideal environment. So I was just wondering, what are some good native plants for that situation, and do you have any tips for restoring the soil?
Not a lot of tips for restoring the soil other than organic matter, mulch or something to break it up, to give it some porosity, to give it some organic matter in the soil. I'm afraid that's not easy. You know, that's just a bunch of turning soil and hauling in wheelbarrows and stuff. But that'd be my only advice for that. We don't change soil around here. There's a word for that, but we don't add anything to our soil around here. So I don't have as much experience, but organic matter, good drainage is always a good way to start. In terms of plants with that much shade, we have a few that I mentioned. Irises may work for you. There's some wonderful native irises. The columbines work for us here but you know, in terms of your soil, that's a little bit tougher question for me, because we have fairly loamy soil here. But I think that would work for you. You know, the Tall River fuchsia has been a good choice for us in part sun, and then for many, including us, the alum roots, Huchera maxima, micrantha, have done well in those areas. We're trying out some other penstemons because they didn't seem to respond well in full sun, but I don't have any knowledge of that right now. One of the plants, there's a coastal sunflower that we put in part sun that may be too shady for it. It's hard to tell. Our coastal sunflower is under a tree, and on the side of a house it gets 50% shade. I forget the Latin name for it. It's Californica. I forget the genus name. There's a lot of names running around up there, and sometimes they don't come out. But those are my best suggestions. I'm afraid I'm not as much help as I'd like to be, because we focus on the full sun aspect of that with some part sun or mostly shade plants that we just have liked and have worked for people as well.
Hey,
Okay.
Diane, do you want to give us your question? Unmute and give us your question.
Hi there. Yes, thank you. Just love the presentation. I am trying to convert to as much natives as possible, and so there's a lot to learn. I have 5 acres I'm the one up in Grass Valley.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm at about 2,500 feet, and it went from 80s 3 weeks ago, summer, to all this rain, and now frost and cold. So what is the criteria for planting timing? You wait until you start to get rain, and now we've had this early cold snap. So is it air temperature, ground temperature? What do I need to consider as far as planting?
That's a good question. I'm gonna probably tell you more than I know, but I would consider ground temperature at this time of year. I know that, and when I work in agriculture, that was a critical thing. Most of these plants are fairly frost resistant, some more than others. If you go on our website and look at the inventory list, there's a right-hand column that of plants that are good around up to 4,000 feet. And that is my best guess at the plant that's above the soil. But I would, if you have still warm soil temperatures, most plants aren't growing too much now anyway. They're just developing root systems. You may,
Right.
It may be okay for you. And I don't know what temperature. I know at like 55 degrees that tomatoes grow, but I don't have any temperature for soil temperature, but certainly well above freezing.
Well, and I mean, I have, winters here sometimes can be very mild, and it frosts only a few times, and the soil never freezes. I mean, so, but it certainly gets into probably the 50s, right? The soil temperature. So, I just wasn't sure. It seems, so what are we looking for? What am I looking for as far as, you want the roots to develop? And so what do they need to do that?
They need moisture. They need good temperatures, porous soil, a decent soil to.
No,
Some of these
temperature-wise,
things,
because I get, we get a ton of rain usually up here in the winter.
Yeah, some of these plants, it's kind of a plant by plant thing. Some of these plants grow in really bad soil. So it's a little bit of a plant by plant. I wish I could advise you more specifically, but
I'm only looking for timing wise. So can I can I plant now? I mean, if the soil temperature is like 40s, 50s, or is that just too cold?
Yeah, I don't know if I was, here again, I'll tell you more than I know. I would take a soil temperature. If you're up in the 55, I think you're okay. I'm not sure. You might just do a little research online on that. If you get below that, I would say hold off.
All right.
If you're having that type of warm days, you're probably pretty good shape. Most of these plants, especially the ones for higher elevation, they are used to cold soil and cold environments. When we get a frost here, although we don't get as cold as you do, typically if we have new growth from fall, if we get an early rain, October rain, we'll get some growth. That'll burn back, the flowers will burn off, and the plant's just fine. So it does depend on which plants you have. So does that help at all?
Yeah, thank you. I just needed
Okay.
some guardrails. Thank you.
Yeah, if you want the, and there again, on the inventory list, it has where there goes up to, or 4,000 feet, because I got people in Strawberry that asked me that question. And if you want, I can send you a complete list of even plants we aren't in inventory, and that may help you to do that. And then, but really, we get most of our information off of Calscape for that elevation. So
Okay,
that's
no,
probably,
that's
that's a
fine.
great
Thank you.
resource. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I thank you. They have so much. I really appreciate even your favorites, because, you know, it gives me some direction. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
And-
Okay, so we're gonna have to end, so we'll just take a couple more questions. It looks like Madeline is next, and then KF. And then, so Madeline, you want to unmute and ask your question?
Hi, thanks very much. First of all, Carl, would it be okay if I emailed you a couple questions to answer
Sure.
your
Yeah.
convenience?
Mhm.
Okay, then the question I'll ask, I'm on the valley floor south of Modesto, really sandy soil, plants that have been planted within just the last few weeks. If we get very little more rain like we did last winter, what would you recommend for watering these newly planted plants during the winter time? And I'm not talking about any moisture.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, keep them wet.
Okay, so
at the very
on your-
least, give them a normal winter.
Okay, so rule of thumb, like you were saying, 10 to 12 days or something like that?
Yeah. We have right now we got an inch of rain, I don't know, a week, 10 days ago. So we got plenty of moisture right now here. But if we dry up, I'll put them back on at 10 to 12 days.
Okay, great. Thanks very much.
Yeah. Yeah, give them a normal winter, especially the first year.
Okay,
Very critical.
And for winter time, we don't have to worry so much about that saturating the root zone kind of thing.
No, I really don't. They're not growing that fast. They're more establishing a foundation, developing roots, that type of stuff. And the stress isn't on them like it is during summer. And
Okay.
for whatever reason, some will go dormant during summer and they don't suck up water. At this
Okay.
time of year, they should all be looking for water and used to, being able to take an inch or two of rain at a time.
Okay, great. Thanks very
Okay.
much.
You're welcome.
Okay, KF, do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm at 5,500 feet in Los Padres forest area,
Mhm.
and we already have 3 snows, and we can have snow as late as Mother's Day. So between Thanksgiving or before Thanksgiving to Mother's Day, on and off, we could have snow. My problem, of course, is I bought a lot of sages, and I don't know which of the sages can tolerate up to, like we have at 24 degrees, for example. And
Yeah.
I was wondering whether you have a list of the native plants that you sell that is cold tolerant to, say, 15 degrees, 20 degrees.
I don't, I mentioned that. You get to see all my computer stuff here. So plans.
I can send you my email.
Here's what I mentioned. So here's what I mentioned. This is on the website. This is our inventory, plant availability. And there's a column out here that says plants that grow
Carl,
higher
we
than
aren't
4,000
seeing
feet.
we aren't seeing your screen. Are
Oh,
you?
you're not? Okay.
Well, we've seen your screen, but you're not pointing to that page.
We see the
No,
screen
okay.
that say thank you.
We're still seeing your PowerPoint
Last
window.
page.
Then I'm lost. I'm lost on it.
You got to
So-
click on the page that you want us to see.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
No,
Right.
you have to unshare your screen and then reshare by selecting the new screen you want to share.
Okay. Well, I think I won't do that, but the inventory on the website has plants that go over 4,000 feet. There's a column on the right-hand side. And really that information is off of Calscape. I was questioned on that, I get repeated questions and good questions from people from Strawberry. I think they're around 44,000, 4,500. And they want to know what can I plant, what I can't. So that's the extent of my knowledge for, sorry, but for your elevation. And so, but Calscape does have that information available for anything, whether it goes 2 to 6,000 or 3 to, you know, however many thousand. So it is accessible. I'd be glad to send you our entire plant list that has all that I know of.
Okay,
But
great.
that's the extent of my knowledge for that
All
that
right,
elevation.
I will email you.
Okay.
I wanted to
let's-
point out, that in the chat, Rhonda Allen and Cynthia have been putting in comments on some of the questions that have been coming in. So if you asked a question, make sure and look through the chat to see if there was more comments from Rhonda, who really knows her stuff, and from Cynthia as well in the chat.
Okay, so everyone, listen, thanks for coming, but we hope you will stay around a few more minutes because Mike now is going to talk briefly about our chapter. And we're pretty enthusiastic about the restart of our chapter, and we hope some of you will join our chapter, even if as your second CNPS chapter, if you're a member of CNPS, you can belong to 2 chapters. So Mike, why don't you do that? And then if anyone's still around at the end, maybe there could be a few more questions if Carl can wait till that. Do you want to start, Mike?
Yeah, before I do, if you go ahead and take a screenshot of Carl's thank you plate here, you'll get his email and you can certainly send him any last questions you might have. So go ahead and do that real quick. And then let me go ahead and take, I want to share, hopefully everybody can see this.
So Cynthia.
Yeah.
Right. Hi, Carl. What?
Cynthia, yeah, sorry, I'm going to be out in just a few minutes. We have a family birthday today that I have to go to.
Oh, no problem. Listen,
Okay.
Thank you so much, Carl. We'll be
So
in
I'll
touch
hang around for a few minutes, but thanks everybody. Really appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, I just wanted to give you an introduction to our chapter. And by the way, if you've been to the other speaker series webinars, this is basically the same speech I've given before. And so she said, go ahead and stick around. But the truth is that if you've already heard this, you've already heard this. But just to let you know, the North San Joaquin Valley chapter of the California Native Plant Society, in the years before COVID, our chapter had already kind of fallen by the wayside, which is really sad. It used to be the most active chapter in the Valley, as I understand it, but a strong chapter requires a big effort on the part of a strong core of volunteers, and things just quieted down until it practically ceased to exist. Right before COVID hit, a meeting was held to reinvigorate the chapter in January 2020, no less. Now, that is timing. And so now, as COVID is waning, we're on full steam ahead to get this chapter back on track. And here we are with, in this case, third of our series of virtual presentations that will allow us to learn more about native plants and our own home. This is actually from the last talk, but you'll soon be hearing, well, you already heard all that. Let's see, recently we had tabling events at the La Loma Pollinator Festival, the Patterson Apricot Festival, and the Stanislaus County Fair. We've been collecting names and emails and people locally who are ready to help us promote the use of native plants, as we'll be talking about. The California Native Plant Society is obviously a statewide organization, and you can join it for a regular individual membership of $50. To receive Flora and Artemisia magazines, get benefits such as discounts at certain nurseries, sales and such, and the ability to join 2 different chapters of the CNPS. So obviously we hope you join us in the North San Joaquin Valley chapter and whichever other chapter you feel kinship with. I said the membership was about $50, but there are lower dues for people who have reduced incomes and higher membership levels for those who are able to help the organization more financially. It's a great cause. To go to the membership online, it's just cnps.org/membership. One of the things we've been working on is a new newsletter. And in the second newsletter just went out. The first one went out last month. Volume 2 of the Oak Branch has been sent out to all of our members via email. I should point out that we intend to do everything by email. We recognize that there are some people who actually prefer US mail. And for those people who are inconvenienced, we do apologize, but we don't yet have the financial or volunteer base to put it together that way. We've decided to save some trees and remain electronic. So if this is a true problem, please let us know. The Oak Branch has a number of informative articles on native plant subjects, photos, information about local events and happenings. It goes out to all our members. You should have received it, but if you are on our list but somehow got missed, please let me know in chat. If you didn't get the newsletter, let me know in chat, and we want this particular newsletter to go out to everyone. So if you haven't received our newsletter, let us know and we'll get it out to you. We also have a lot of people that have expressed an interest in native plants, but who haven't joined us yet. And we hope to keep you in the loop as well, so that perhaps you can actually join us for an event or two and to remind you that we are here. So why care about native plants? I was asked this question recently. What's the deal? Isn't it just a hobby? No, we are finding out more and more each day that the true need to restore our environment as much as we can. The man who has been trying to explain the need for native plants with the most eloquence is Doug Ptolemy, a professor from Delaware. He's written 3 books on the subject, all of which circle around the theme that we have been damaging the environment dramatically, but there is hope in native plants. 95% of all birds feed insects to their young. Caterpillars are a more important component of that diet, and caterpillars cannot live on non-native plants with very few exceptions. The native plants are critical to the ecosystem in a backyard with no native plants, and that is devastatingly high percentage of them are ecological dead zones. Planting native plants in our yards helps moths, butterflies, native bees, and other pollinators, and therefore birds, and the web goes on and on. Our city needs to be not to be devoid of butterflies. For more information about this, you can watch this 1-hour video. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Sorry, I got behind here. For more information on this, you can watch this 1-hour video that knocked me over like a brick. This was a talk back in 2018 by Doug Ptolemy to CNPS in Los Angeles in February 2018. Just put in Doug Ptolemy, Restoring Nature's Relationships, take a screenshot in which he gives a both scary but hopeful look at the situation. Since we've been ramping things up, we are holding field trips, but we expect to really pour it on this coming year. As we come into fall, we will be concentrating on the fact that the fall is the time to plant native gardens. They are very successful if you start by seed in the fall or by planting new plants. We have a new plant, well, we don't have a new plant sale, we literally just had it. But so you can see this is kind of an old slideshow, but anyway, Sacramento also had one. We expect to send out our next newsletter in November, actually just went out, that will keep people talking about your fall and winter gardens in order, and then in the spring, we reap what we sow. We'll look at wildflowers and have field trips galore, I hope. We do need volunteers to take on the certain positions on our executive board and on various committees. We hope to have a project crew who can learn the ins and outs of planting native plants, maintaining them, and then can help us set up native plant islands, demonstration gardens, butterfly habitat around the Central Valley. With so much habitat wiped out by agriculture and development, it is high time we put things back. And this is just the organization to do it. We need a conservation committee and that looks at local issues and advocates for native plants. We need an event committee to help us create an enviable and varied list of things to do and places to go, including so many wonderful locations that already exist around our area. We need to do more tabling events to let people know what we do and to educate everyone on the need for native plants. There is so much that we can do, but it takes people and effort. And with that in mind, let me know, we finally have an in-person, already did that. Let's see. So with that, I will turn it back over to Cynthia, and I will be in the chat. Normally I do this at the beginning. So anyway, if you have any, if you weren't able to get your the newsletter, make sure and let us know in chat. We'll go ahead and save the chat, and I will email you later on, and we'll get you set up so you get your newsletter emailed to you. Sorry about that.
Okay, well, thanks, Mike. Yeah, so Mike will go through the chat and pick out the email addresses for those of you that want to be want to get our newsletter or didn't get it and you are a member. But that's pretty much the end of our presentation. And please spread the word about our chapter and about our ongoing series of webinars. The next one is in January. I showed you that at the beginning. And you can find on our Facebook page, all of our events. We're working on our website. It's not up yet, but it will be soon. But just go to our North San Joaquin Valley chapter of CNPS on Facebook to find our events and to register for the upcoming webinars. Yes, you can receive the newsletter even if you're not a member, but we'd love to have you be a member. So that's it. I think you know how to reach us, and thank you very much for coming. Okay, I just turned off the video.
Keep it going so I can go through the chat looking for emails and stuff.
I'm going to keep this going, but I turned off the video.
All right, cool. Let's see. Oh, okay. Hey, Cynthia, I owe you a real apology.
But no, Mike, please. There's still people in there.
No, I understand, but I wasn't able to join you right away, and so.
I hope. Oh, I didn't actually turn it off.